All right. You
And
ready?
is it that Henry's butt is here?
I love Henry's butt. Henry's butt that's how we're going to start. We're going to start this podcast talking about your dog's butt that is
Okay, great.
in probably several podcasts.
He's kind of a fixture. It was reading.
Yes.
I have a new class starting tomorrow, and so I was doing all the homework for it and reading through it. And one of the things was like, please remove your dogs from the room. And I was like, Henry's been in every single one, and he just does this. But I'm sure, like,
Right.
if you had a yippy dog or one
Sure.
that desired attention, that he's
Yeah,
like, I'd rather just sleep, thanks.
that's not Henry.
My
We
friend's dog.
we had the dog across the street for a week and his name is also Henry, but we call him Henri, the French gentleman.
We call him Henri
Oh,
too. Like
yeah.
when
So
if he's being naughty, I go Henri, and he's
Henri,
like,
yes. It just makes me laugh.
that's so great.
So yeah, Henry's butt's going to be here with us today. My dear friend and colleague and fellow organizer, Missi McKown. How are you?
I am well and sleepy, but good.
Listen, we're recording this on a Monday. Neither Missy nor I are really morning people. Every morning, every single morning when I wake up, if Tim and I wake up at the same time, one of the two of us will be like, we hate morning time. We don't like wake up time. I like laying in bed time.
It's my favorite time. Yeah.
So we are recording this in the morning on a Monday, which are two things slammed together that are so great. So thank you for joining us. And we're talking about something that you and I are both very enthusiastic and passionate about. And it's about the client experience.
Yeah.
And you are someone that I admire a lot because I think you provide like such a good and cohesive client experience. And you and I were just talking as we do every single day. We WhatsApp messages back and forth quite a few times a day on average. And you were talking about a situation with a client and, kind of an unhappiness situation. And you're like, here's what I did. It was incredibly simple. And the client is thrilled now. And we both realized this is a podcast. So that's what we're talking about today, making clients happy.
Yeah, it's true, especially when they're not happy.
Yeah. And I think before we start, I will say, I think, I've been in a lot of different businesses and customers slash clients, whatever you want to call them, there are times that they're not going to be happy, right? Like think about you going through your everyday life and
Yeah.
like right now, I'm annoyed at my bank. I have
Right.
to go deal with the bank later today because something dumb is going on. And I'm like, I'm already annoyed about it, right? And I think the hard part is that we in our business, like we care so much about our clients. And I know I'm a people pleaser, which is not everybody's problem, but it is my particular problem. And so when someone expresses that they're not super happy about something, I take it so personally.
Mm.
Whereas in my old business, I would have been like, in these big corporate environments where there are tons of people, you're like, well, there's a lot of blame to go around. When it's your business, you're like, it's me.
Yes.
And so
Correct.
it's easy to take it personally. So I guess I just want to start out by saying, if nothing else, we want to make you feel better that we all make mistakes and that
Yes.
because we're our own, generally we're solo owners of businesses, even if you have a team, you can take it really personally. And we want to let a little bit of that go. Is that fair?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think you're exactly right because we created this. We want everyone to have a good experience. And so when someone's like, hey, this wasn't exactly what I was expecting, like I remember the first time I was just like knife through the heart. You're like, oh no. And now you're like, okay, well, not everybody likes peanut butter. So like
Yeah.
some
Right.
people are just not going to be happy sometimes. And sometimes there's other things going on in their life that are contributing to that that have zero to do with you. Often that's the case.
And what we're going to talk mostly about today is like, how do we help how do we make those dissatisfactions into satisfactions? But the one thing that I really want to tell people is, and we see this a lot in our Inspired Organizer group, is people will say, like, hey, I had this experience. This client texted me XYZ. And it, again, super easy to just take it as I have failed entirely. And in a lot of cases, especially with the work that we do, like you said, there's a lot underneath that. It could be that a spouse is frustrated. It could be that people, money is an issue and people are upset about that. There are a million reasons as to why a client could be dissatisfied. So I don't want everyone to take it as like, well, I might as well quit business because I'm clearly terrible at it. That's not it. It might be a client problem, but there might also be a solution that you can use that makes them very happy and where everyone wins.
Yeah, Absolutely. Yeah. That's what we're looking for is a win-win on both sides.
Right.
So yeah.
Can you give us an example to kind of start out with? I know you told me beforehand, you're like, I wrote down well, I'll let you tell. Like you said, you wrote down every time a client has been frustrated. Tell us about that.
Yeah, and it's just anytime I've gotten any feedback of like, "Oh, this was a bit of a surprise." So they're not big monstrous things, and it's not many. It averages out to about 1 a year, which I figure,
One a year is pretty good.
right? Like
Yeah.
that seems average. Like especially when you're talking about I'm irritated at my bank right now. I'm really irritated with my healthcare provider. Like, there's always things that happen in life that causes people to be unhappy, and so it just goes to reason that at some point it would be us as a service provider. So,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
can you give us an example of one that you wrote down, one of your 7, your 1 per year?
sure. One was really sweet and really dear. We were brought in to do some book organizing in what I would call just like not to the level of Beauty and the Beast library, but like significant amount of books. And there were plenty that needed to still go on the bookshelves. So they were running out of space. So we had talked a lot about letting things go, talking about the path to make those decisions. And when it came time, as you might imagine, there was some resistance there. And so not everything was fitting. And I got some feedback that one of the organizers on the team was unfamiliar with the Dewey Decimal System, and it was really frustrating to the client, and they
Okay.
felt like they
I
wait.
shouldn't laugh, but I'm just like, are there a lot of us that are experts in the Dewey Decimal System if you did not go to school for library science? I'm just asking.
I mean, like this is the thing though. I feel like every time someone gives me feedback, it is always an opportunity to learn to be like, oh my gosh, you had the Dewey Decimal System in your head of how this is going to be organized. And we were thinking in terms of, and to be honest, I never Googled the Dewey Decimal System, so maybe this is it, but like categories, like
Yeah. Like
fiction,
genre or
nonfiction.
yeah, right. Like
Yeah.
fiction or nonfiction. Yeah.
And
I
then
do
say
actually know.
nonfiction, baseball or whatever it is, right? So I received this information in an email and I just thought, my gosh, this is a phone call. Like, this is not a good way to engage. And so I just picked up the phone. I'm Gen X and you're Gen X, but you're hate the phone and I love it. So there's room for both of us.
I hate the phone. I wish the phone didn't function as a phone. So yeah.
But I love it. So I was like, let's just give a phone call. And so I just called and I said, hey, I got your email. I would love to talk to you about it and just hear what happened from your perspective. And so that gave the person an opportunity to repeat a lot of the things that were in the email, but also it just gave them the chance to be heard. I went into it with this mindset like this individual just wants to be heard, just wants to be understood. And so I let them share. I asked follow up questions. I got really curious. I think that's important when you're trying to solve the problem. Like, what would make this feel better? And also validating. Like, I understand that if you had this expectation, we totally missed the boat. That's on us. And I'm so sorry I didn't ask this question earlier. And I'm happy to take the heat because it's my business. I screwed up, right? Like, he's not happy. So, what ended up happening was I just asked, what would make you feel better about this? And he said, well, I'd like some money back. And I said, amazing. Do you have a number in mind? And he said, well, I know that you have to pay the team for being here. And so I don't want to like rake you over the coals. He's like, how about this? And I said, that sounds great. Can I send it to you in a check or do you want Zelle? Like, well, how do you want it? You know? And we figured that part out. And he just stopped and he goes, I gotta tell you, he goes, this was the most professionally handled complaint that I've ever issued with anyone before, service provider or not. He's like, you listened to me. I felt very understood. And he's like, and to be honest, I'm kind of blown away. And he's like, you don't get this level of customer service anymore. And I said, well, this is my business. It's super important to me. I do want you to have a good experience. And we didn't deliver on that. So I'm willing to do whatever we need to do to make it right. And he was, just not expecting that. And so that's just an opportunity to, I mean, whatever your values are about your business, if you can embrace that in the conflict resolution part, I think that's important too. For me, it's just, I do want to help people and have integrity in how I do it. And so that was how I handled it. And I'm not saying everyone has to do it this way. This was just one way that worked for me.
If I remember correctly, the amount of money he wanted wasn't even that big, right?
No, it was quite insignificant.
Yeah. And so then you're like, okay, you're expecting this guy to be like, well, I want some money back. Okay, how much? $1,000? No, 100, right? Like I mean, I don't remember what the number was, but I do
Yeah,
remember it was small in
yeah,
comparison to the size of the project you had with him. And so then you're like, oh, if that's all he wants, and then you did a lot of other things, which I would argue are way more valuable, which is apologizing. Sometimes people just want an apology.
oh, 100%. Yeah,
And if
yeah,
you could just say, man, I am really sorry that happened.
yeah,
Sometimes that's all they want. And like you said, to be heard. So hear them out, hear their complaint, and then say, man, I'm really sorry. We missed the boat.
yep,
Sometimes that's all people want.
yeah, absolutely.
Even if you don't think you're wrong, or even if you, in fact, know that you are not wrong. Like
Yeah,
I would argue, I mean, if you really wanted to, if you really want to break down that situation you just gave us, could you have asked, hey, how do you envision these being organized? And they say Dewey Decimal System, and you go, pardon? Like, okay, so that's a learning, right? But I would argue that request from a client is quite unusual and perhaps out of line, right? For you to psychically know that he wanted it by a Dewey Decimal. The client doesn't have to be right about the thing they're complaining about.
right.
You don't have to say, man, you're absolutely right. In the future, I'm going to organize everything Dewey Decimal. But it is about just going like, yeah, we're really sorry we screwed up, even if you didn't really screw up.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, that's true. There are definitely some times where I was like, that is not quite how I remembered it going.
Right.
But like, again, I mean, we're in the business of customer service. So sometimes you have to just take some stuff and eat some things that are really not yours, but to preserve the relationship with the client if it is worth preserving.
Yes. Well, and I think too that in this age of, I mean, something that I hear a lot in our inspired organizer group is I don't want to get a bad review from
Mhm.
someone.
Mhm.
And the mythical bad review is it's like a unicorn. It almost never actually happens, right? Like those people usually don't. But you also want to head off someone if you are going to be defensive about it, or if you are going to like die on that hill, it could end up hurting you more than if you just said, I want to admit that I'm wrong, even if I don't think I am wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, in that particular case, too, did you ever have a moment where you're like, huh, this is ludicrous? Or were you just confident, I'm just gonna, whatever he says, whatever he comes back with, like, I'm willing to take that.
I had a conversation, kind of coached myself before I got on the call of like, what would I be willing to do? And to be honest, for me, I was just like, full refund, like, like whatever. And I decided it would be a learning opportunity. Like, I just looked at it that way and that feedback is valuable, whatever. And so when he asked for like half of that, I was like, okay,
Great.
sounds great. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, I do want the client to be happy, even if we are probably not going to work on future projects together. Like,
Yeah.
that's fine. There's a lot of folks that are one and done or they have a specific need. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So let me ask you this too, because I think that a lot of times in cases like this, a good solution for some people could be, could we come back and fix it? Like
Correct.
that is also something that you can do where if you are someone who's like, man, I really wouldn't want to give money back, the
Yeah.
option you have is something that is, it's not
You're,
free, but it is sort of, it's your time.
yeah. Yes. And I've definitely done that in the beginning. And it's still in the agreement to this day. Like if something's not right, we'll come and fix it. Is the promise I'm making. So that has only actually been requested one time.
Okay.
And I went and did it. Took 2 hours. Like,
Right.
yeah,
And that's one, I mean, there are certainly times when that wouldn't work. Like I do travel projects, you've done travel projects, sometimes it's not quite that simple, but that
right.
is sometimes the simplest, easiest solution. If you just go, could I come over to your house for an hour and I would love to fix it for you on me?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's my own standards where I'm like, oh, I was envisioning this a little different way. So there's been times where I've been in the client's house and they go, So I'm so curious because I think it looks great. What are you coming back here to fix? And I was like, I'm going to show you. I'm going to take the before picture and the after picture and show you. And then they go, oh, yeah,
I
that does
do
look
see
better.
it, right? Yeah.
So some of it is just my own idiosyncrasies where I'm like, I have a standard, you know, but
Well, and I also think too that shows them that you care about their project even when that project is done. Like
yeah,
if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm at a client's house right now. I'm helping them move from one house to another while they are blissfully on vacation, which I'm very jealous of. But I did something in her kids' room and she said, "Hey, the girls have some feedback." And I'm like, "I love when kids have feedback. That's actually great, right? Like, can you do this a little differently? Can you do this a little differently?" And I'm like, I would much rather know that
yeah.
to have people being like, man, she really messed up. I don't want the 11-year-old to be like, she messed up all my t-shirts.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, we talk about that a lot. Like, happy to please give us live feedback. You know, you are the boss. So direct us if we're doing something that you don't like. We're asking a ton of questions on the front end and during to make sure that we're on the same page as much as humanly possible to try and get inside your brain. And we're not mind readers. So if we're veering a different direction, like just knock us back.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
We don't know everything. I tell people all the time, like, I don't always have good ideas. I have ideas, but they're not always good.
I see something really similar. I'm like, I'm just a little idea generator here, so I'm just
Right.
gonna keep going, and you tell me if
Right.
it sounds great, and if none of them do, I'll just keep going. Like, we'll find more.
I
Like,
have other bad ideas I can share with you. So
one of them is gonna stick and be right for how you use your space, and that's what we're trying to land on.
yeah. Well, one thing too that I think about this conversation, and I said it a couple minutes ago, but I'll tell you something that, and I'm pretty good at psychologizing myself, but when someone has, even with this client who just in the nicest way was like, "Hey, the girls have a couple of things about their drawers, right?"
Yeah,
But your immediate reaction is, I screwed up. And then
sure.
my second reaction is getting defensive about why I did it. Well, the reason I did the drawer like that is because blah, blah, blah. Like I feel the need to explain myself. My
Yeah,
therapist actually told me once, she said in the nicest way, she goes, "You have a high need for justice." And I was like, oh, yeah, it hurts. Like I want people like in my old corporate life, people who didn't work hard, I wanted them to get in trouble, right?
y-
Like or whatever. And so then I sometimes rush to let me explain why I did that. And it's like that is not necessary. I've had to stuff down that instinct in myself and just
yeah.
like, no, you have something that you're frustrated by. I would like to fix it.
Right, right. Yeah. No, that makes all the sense in the world. And sometimes what I will do for myself, my therapist and your therapist would probably approve this. I will write an email, not, directed at
Yes.
anybody, but just like what I would like to
With
say.
your anger points? Yeah.
Well, with the defensiveness of
Yeah.
like, remember we talked about this and you said that, and, that's why we went in this direction, or you approved this, or whatever it is. And it's not helpful in trying to resolve the conflict. If it's helpful to your inner brain to just be like, I know what I know and I just need to get it out, great. But the client is not the person to share that with.
Yes, correct. I do love it's kind of like the burn, like you're gonna write a note and then you're gonna burn it. It's the
Yeah.
electronic version of that. Like
Yes.
write out all your anger or talk about it. Sometimes when you and I voice message each other, sometimes that's what it is for me is like, I just need to verbally vomit this and then
Yes.
I'm done being upset about it. But I got to get it out. That's at least
Right.
that's what happens to me. If I don't speak it out, it like stays in my
It
brain.
Yeah, yeah, and so you're just processing. You're just
Yeah.
processing. Yeah.
I would say too, and you and I both have enough years under our belt too that a lot of times we know in this business, you can have everything lined up, like everything you just said, like, do you remember what we agreed to? Do you remember what we said we were going to buy? Do you remember what we said we were going to do? You can have all those things in place. And then the client still goes like, oof, but I didn't actually want that. Like they sometimes realize through this process what they
Mhm.
thought they wanted and what they got, which may align directly, isn't actually what they wanted, right?
Leave more. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yep, that happens too.
And
It
so just understanding that this process might be hard for them.
Right.
So they're processing it in their own way, and then that might result in them going like, "Oh, I know I said this, but now I don't like that." And that's,
Yeah.
again, not something that you did wrong. It's not something like you need to change your whole process in your business. You just have one thing that the client had a disconnect on that, again, has nothing to do with you.
Absolutely. And I think that goes back to how you've set up the relationship on the front end of like, is it open? Do they feel like they can come to you? Like probably most of these people had something to say because they felt safe enough to do so. I imagine there are some people that have had organizers and weren't happy with the experience, but never felt comfortable to go back to them and be like,
Sure.
hi, I'm not really loving this, you know?
We've gotten those clients, right? You and I have both had experiences where we have gotten clients and they have said, "Oh, I used another organizer." And
Yeah.
when you get that enough courage, you go, "Could you tell me what you didn't enjoy about that experience?" Because I also don't want to replicate whatever bad experience they had, whether it
Right.
was objectively or subjectively bad. I
Yeah.
don't want to replicate that experience. And
Yeah.
so, but then you sometimes hear like, "Oh, yeah, that's a really legitimate reason for you to be upset."
Right. Yeah. Stuff got thrown away that they
Right.
wanted and, legitimate things or all sorts of things. And so then you're just hyper aware of that as you're going into the new situation.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I do want to say something before I forget it, which will happen. I also want people to know that if you have one client that expresses, I don't like XYZ, what I see a lot of people do too is they go, I got to blow up my whole business. I got to blow up. Okay, well, this process doesn't work then. Or this, I need to totally change how I do consultations. I need to change. What I would also caution people is don't take one data point and then extrapolate it as like, my whole business is messed up. Do you know what I mean? Like I see that a lot where you can take one thing and blow it up into a way bigger thing it needs to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And use your data. Like if majority of people are singing your praises, the vast majority are being like, this is life-changing work. You're doing it right. There's always going to be outliers or like we talked about different circumstances going on in their life where they're just like, I'm unimpressed. I had a experience once where it was two partners living together and one who was there was saying, oh my gosh, this is changing our marriage. This is incredible work. And then I got a phone call from the other one who was not there at all and was like, "Yeah, we're not gonna have you come back for the last day." And I was like, "Oh, okay, no problem. I'll just refund your money for the last day. We didn't go, so no worries." But it felt bad for the one who had been there and we had been working with directly because I was like, I imagine they meant it when they said this is saving their marriage, and it felt really beneficial. But yeah, I don't know. You can't make everyone happy.
And that's one that you can't win, right? Because you're not in that marriage, you're not in that relationship, you're not in that house. There could be a million things going on there that you can't help. But I think you just said something important, which is this is another thing that I see a lot that I just want to encourage people to be open to really helping with a client dissatisfaction, even if it goes against some of your policies, rules, procedures, that type of thing.
Right.
So what you just said is great. I'll refund you for that final day.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of people, and by the way, I'm pro boundaries, I'm pro rules, I'm pro all that stuff. I want people to get paid for their business. But
Yeah.
I do think there are some times where people are like, well, I require 100% payment and there are no refunds under any circumstances, and I'm going to die on this hill. And sometimes that's not the right move, in my opinion.
It just totally depends, yeah, on the person. Because 'cause you're right, for some people, that protects them in a way. I very much treat people as I want to be treated. If I were in that situation and I had prepaid for a certain amount of days and then we're like, "Oh gosh, I'm not really getting what I'm expecting here," I would hope that person would be like, "You know what? We'll just charge you for the time that we've already done. The
Right.
rest, refund coming your way." That's what I would want. And so that's how I start a lot of like these conversations where I'm like coaching myself before I call somebody or whatever it is. It's like, what would I want out of this situation? And then I try and give that.
Yeah. I think that there is a time to stand on boundaries and rules and procedures. And I think it's great to have those things. I think there are also times that you just know the right thing to do is just say, no problem. I'll get
Yeah.
that refund right out to you. Um,
Yeah.
and it's not worth the fight. I think it's
100%.
also, I just feel like energetically, like, do you want to go to a house where someone doesn't want you there? I don't.
Yeah, no.
So I would
100%.
rather open up that day to someone that really loves me and thinks I'm spectacularly fabulous
Yeah.
than to go somewhere where you're going to get hostile reception. I don't want that.
Yeah. No, I agree completely.
Do you have another example on your list of a dissatisfaction that you turned around?
I mean, turned around is a little loosey goosey because,
Okay.
in my opinion, if there is a situation where you can turn around the experience that the person is having, that is a win for me. Like a negative experience into a positive one. And most of the time, it can be done with money. And that sounds really silly and privileged to be able to say, but I'm just giving their own money back. Like,
Yeah. Right. It really wasn't your money, right?
yeah,
Like there's a difference between they're asking for something and it like you were just holding on to it for a while, right?
sure. And there are times where, like, we did all the work, they're still unhappy. And, gosh, we're doing the best we can. It was a long distance one. They wanted to change up the design of the alpha system, so the container store shipped them some products, and before we left, here's what's they're shipping, here's how to attach it. You see, it looks just like this one here. Like, couldn't be easier. I'm going to send you the link for the YouTube video of how to do it. Yep, all on board. And then once it arrived, they were like, "You charged me extra for these pieces that are worthless," and I'm just like, "Oh shoot!" Like, I wonder if they forgot, and so I replied and was just like, this was earlier when I was replying via email. Here's the YouTube video again. Here's the information. I want this to work for you because you wanted this extra storage. Here's how to install it. And, for the inconvenience of your time, here's a refund of X, Y, and Z. And after this long email I'd received from them, and a equally-ish lengthier one back, because it was like, here's all the information on the Alpha system, I got back almost immediately, "Thank you so much," with like 7 exclamation points. And I was like, we're
There you
good,
go.
you
Yeah.
know? Like,
Yeah.
so sometimes just a little cash helps sweeten the deal. That was very early in business, and for years, I said that was the best $100 I've ever spent, Like,
And again, not a ton of money, right? Like, and
no.
it's not to say we don't want to minimize, like $100 is still $100. Like $100 you don't have is $100 you don't have, right? But
Sure,
it
but over the course of that product, that $100 was earned.
it's
So,
such a bigger, like there are bigger fish to fry. And I think the phrase win the battle, lose the war is an
yeah.
important one too. Like you just every once in a while, that little thing could actually blow up into something that is much better if you just give that little bit and it really
Yeah.
isn't going to hurt that much.
Yeah. And I also just try and take the perspective of they've got a lot of things going on in their life, right? No one has ever contacted me for organizing and been like, "I'm doing pretty great." Like they've
Yeah.
needed an extra set of hands for a reason. And
Yeah.
sometimes there's 17 things happening. And so I try to have a lot of compassion for all that they're going through too, and not expecting them to remember everything. I have a really weird brain. I was really like extremely good at memory as a kid and still am, much to my husband's chagrin, because I
Mhm.
crush him in it all the time. But you could call me a year from now and be like, "Hey, Missy, where did you put this XYZ?" And I'd be like, "Okay, go into your
Inner
up."
corner and it's on the bottom shelf and it's in the bit.
Yeah, exactly. On the left-hand side. And I don't know, my brain just works that way. But all of this to say, I don't expect everybody else's to. And I don't want to be that person who's like, "Actually, you said," because like that's not good for business, right? So it's like, happy to share this information again, happy to get you what you need, like want you to be successful with this space that we've helped you create that was in your brain and now it's in real life. So let's help you use it. So
I had a client recently who there was fault on both sides, let's say, but she was frustrated with me that I had taken a while to schedule her, and she was someone who wanted like really regular cadence, and at that time in my business, I just couldn't do that. Like
yeah.
our needs were not aligned. My ability to provide her what she needed was not in my ability, and so everybody does their business differently. Don't come at me. I invoice after a project. I know
Yeah.
there are people who think I'm ludicrous. It works for me. Everybody gets to do what works for them. But she had an invoice. She had paid it already. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to refund her one of her sessions. She did 3-hour sessions. And I'm like, I'm just going to send her $300 and just say, you know what? I decided to comp your last session because I'm really sorry that I disappointed you. And I'm sorry because I know this was a client who organizing is really hard for her. And she has to, it's like something she has to psych herself up for. And I was
Mhm.
like, you know what? I just feel like I didn't deliver her the experience she needed. And to me, it wasn't worth it. And so I
Yeah.
said, I want to do this for you. And she immediately texted back and she's like, I don't expect that. Like, you did the work, you are owed the money. And I was just like, nope, I'm doing it anyway, even though she
Yep.
came back with that, because it just felt like the right thing to do. And sometimes you just have to go with that gut of it just feels like the right thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I've also done something similar too. And then sometimes I throw in a little extra than what I say I'm doing, and then
Yes.
they lose their minds
Right.
in the
Yes.
best way possible. And then you have a client for life. Like it's just a matter of doing the right thing.
I also think too, like we obviously like a lot of the examples that we've talked about already are involve money of some kind, but I will also say there are sometimes that just a very simple, like we said earlier, just having the conversation is one thing, like let the client get it off their chest. The other thing too is sometimes a handwritten note, like don't forget analog methods of doing things. Like, do you know that client really loves wine? Go drop a bottle of wine with a nice note saying, I'm really sorry. I hope we can serve you better next time. Like, whatever. Some of those things, it doesn't have to involve a refund either.
Oh, definitely. Is this a good time for you to share your Nerf gun story?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, so one of the things that we wanted to talk about too, it's not just a client dissatisfaction, it's taking something that you are just trying to make the client happy in whatever way, even if it's not an actual problem. So I just call it above and beyond stuff. And these are small things, but I just had a very recent example. It's this house that I'm in right now, and I'm packing them. They are moving from one house to another. So I was packing them and we had a packing plan, and there were things that we were not touching because they will still need them in the interim, all that kind of thing. But everything else we were free to pack. So I had ground rules established with the client. We realized, and I knew this was going to happen, right? There were a few things that we missed, or a few things she forgot to tell me needed to be kind of set aside. And so the example is, and this is what I just call above and beyond. Her kid has, when they return from spring break, the first day after spring break is Nerf wars at their school. Okay. And she's like, do you know where the Nerf guns are? And I'm like, indeed, I do not, because Nerf guns were in like three different spots in the house. So then I was like, okay, realistically, for me to find the Nerf guns, I will have to look through three different sets of boxes in three different locations, and which I was more than willing to do, right? But she said, oh my gosh, don't worry about it. She goes, I told him there have got to be people that you can borrow Nerf guns from. Like, to be clear, my client was not upset. The
Right.
teenager was upset, but the client, the person who's paying me, didn't care. And she's like, he can find him somewhere else. And I can't explain it, but just somewhere midway through the day, I was like, nah, I'm going to solve this problem. And I'm not going to solve the problem by opening all the boxes I painstakingly packed because screw that. Like, I'm not doing that. And so I just said, I was out for lunch and I go, I'm just going to Target. And I spent $44.25, home by 11, spent $44.25 on Nerf guns. If I ever get audited, I will use this as my proof that yes, I bought Nerf guns, but I swear it was for a good reason. And
Yeah.
all I did was, first of all, I've never bought a Nerf gun in my life. I had daughters who never used Nerf guns. And so I'm like, well, this is kind of fun. So I'm in the Nerf gun aisle and I was like, well, that one looks fun and that one looks fun. Bring them home and I set them up in the boys' room. And I tell the client later, I was like, I solved the Nerf gun problem. Don't ask me any questions. And she's like, okay. And later that day, after I was gone, she sends me a text in all caps, Nerf guns, what? And exclamation points. And she sends me a picture of her kids. And she goes, there is screaming coming from the room. They're so happy right now. Like, you bought nicer ones than they had originally. Like, again, $44.25. They were thrilled. And she's like, that was really nice. Like, thank you so much for doing that. You didn't have to. So, no, I didn't have to. I'm not charging her for it. That is not going to appear on any invoice that I send her. It's a cost that I'm eating, and it was worth every single penny.
Absolutely. Because now you are like locked in with that client for life. They think you walk on water now and you're brilliant and you're generous. Like those small things are so worth it and they don't have to be big.
It
I,
wasn't big. And I didn't argue about like, well, you told me that you could pack the Nerf guns. And like, you didn't tell me that we didn't. Like, it's not worth it because
right.
there's no reason. And it just was like the tiniest little thing that created such a satisfaction.
And it solved the problem way faster than you unpacking a million boxes and being like, are they in this
So
one?
much faster.
Yeah.
By the way, it also helped me. You know why? I don't want to go through boxes I've already packed until I
Exactly.
come to their new house to unpack them. I don't want to pack them and then unpack them and then repack them to unpack them again. Not worth it.
Totally. Yep. Yeah.
So and these are the little things that I just want to tell you, concentrating that on them in our business. And I think it would have been easy for me to be like, it's not my problem. She already told me that he can get them from somewhere else. Whatever. I just knew that wasn't how I wanted to handle it.
Right. Because that's not how you want to handle your business. And that's the key. Like, you get to decide, right? But how fun is it to get that text and just be like,
It was
oh,
really, and by the way, these are teenage boys. They're not like interacting with someone like a random stranger who's in their house. And like when I saw the kids the next day, they're like, thank you very much. Like it was the most
aw,
words you've ever said to me, right? Like, and so then you just go like, no, that was a good thing. And by the way, that it's like that old Seinfeld episode of you can't really do a charitable work because you get something out of it too. I mean, that's kind of the same thing. Like I did something nice, but like I got validation in return, which is my love language. So, but again, everybody won that day.
yeah, yeah. Wasn't that Seinfeld episode? There's no such thing as an altruistic act.
Correct.
I
Yes.
love it. I love it so much.
And I think that's true when I have a client that sends me like, this was life changing, or this is so amazing. And this client is an example. The other day I texted her, hey, I owe you a Diet Dr. Pepper because I had taken one out of their fridge. And she goes, well, you're saving my sanity. So can we just call it even? And I'm like, yes, that text kept me going for days.
Right? I know. It's so great. People are lovely
They really
and
are.
it's so easy. And so when you're talking about this, like going above and beyond, there's this element of surprise and delight, right? Like
Yes.
she was not expecting it. So you surprised her and it delighted her, delighted the kids. That's elevating the customer experience.
Yes. And that is, I think, the biggest point of this. This is not even this is about the client experience and thinking about the long game. Okay. And we don't do these things because we're expecting something in return, but the dividends it can pay. Like when I think about it and I go, well, I think that she will then say kind things to me, to her other mom friends, and to other people in her very vast network. And so, because of that surprise and delight, that going above and beyond, that is something that cements my reputation as a business owner in a positive way. And I think that's the other thing, too, that we're talking about all of these things. You can take a dissatisfaction and turn it into a satisfaction sometimes very easily, and you can get such dividends out of that. It's a big deal.
Totally. Yeah. I'm just remembering one of my very early on clients. I remember she was talking about her kids' love of some really sugary cereal that she just couldn't stand. And she's like, because we were doing a pantry, right? And she's like, so sometimes that's here or whatever, but not often because I hate this one. And I was like, oh, okay. Now her kids were young, and they're not going to be telling their friends about an organizer or
Right.
whatever. But I couldn't help it. When I happened to go to the store the next time and saw that cereal sitting there, I was like, well, I know who would like this, right? And so Clear Spaces bought that cereal. It's cereal, guys. Like it was like, I don't know, $5,
$5, right?
and brought it back. This guy.
Henry's butt back.
Sorry, we just had to come in on the job. Brought it back and wrapped it up and left it on the table for them with a little note, handwritten note, analog, you were saying, right? And well, they were on vacation and she was blown away by it, just blown away. 5 years later, we get a call back to do like 6 more spaces in the house. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's because of the cereal. I have no idea. I'm sure she appreciated the other areas too, but it's just like small things you can do to surprise and delight.
Remember that.
Yeah. There's a whole book about that. Do you remember? Have you ever read, I know you're a big reader, Unreasonable Hospitality?
I have not.
Oh. You're gonna love it. So if
Okay.
you like the service industry, technically it's all about restaurant service, so you're gonna
Yeah.
love that too, because it's
Sure.
like about chasing Michelin stars and stuff. But in there, it talks about this level of surprise and delight, and so they call it unreasonable hospitality, but it translates a lot to what we do as service providers as well. So just something for your
Okay,
brain.
that's a good one. But I think just thinking about customer service, we say the phrase customer service can mean a lot of different things, right? But if you really think about it, it is the whole experience of working with you
Mhm.
and the whole experience of what are you going to provide. And you're not just providing a service. And when you think about it, the service we provide is so personal. And
Mhm.
it involves, I don't care whether you get into the deep psychology like you and I personally enjoy, or whether you're a person who is like, don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. You're still providing a really high end client experience.
Right.
And by the way, that high end client experience can be in a home that is not high end. It has nothing to do with that, but it
Oh,
is
100.
high end experience that you are giving people. And it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a white glove service. It doesn't have to be like every house you're in has designer bags. It's about giving that really cohesive customer experience to the people that you work with.
Yeah. And when we're talking about going above and beyond, it's just noticing what's important to your client, like, and what kind of things they value or what kind of things they use. I mean, it could be as simple as a coffee, like, or a candle in a scent that they enjoy, or one that's named after the area that they live in that they talk about incessantly. These small things where they're just like, I can't believe you did that. And yeah, anyway, I love that.
But that involves paying attention too. So that
Oh,
involves paying attention to the client. And this may sound like a silly example, but I have a client who does not drink. And she was just saying this is really minor, but she bought a house. She bought and sold a house, and her realtor gave her, this is pretty standard for realtor, but gave her a bottle of champagne. And she's
mm,
like, I don't drink. So this gift is, it feels like I got phoned in from someone
yeah.
that I just gave like a lot of money to, right? But that
Yeah.
was a really good example of you should, because we're in people's like very personal areas, you do
Mhm.
end up learning a lot about people. And so it
Yeah,
be just like the teensiest little thing, but showing that you have paid attention really is that above and beyond thing.
absolutely. Yeah.
So, without being creepy, though.
Right.
Very
Right. You're
vulnerable then.
pretty good.
So on this like surprise and delight thing at the How to Summit, the best session that I went to was these people.
Is it Mallory, the mover?
Yes, Mallory and what's her husband's name?
I don't know, but I've heard so many people talk about it, and I've never heard them speak that, like, even her name stuck in my head.
Brandon, Mallory, and Hello Happy Home. Okay, I got it. Okay, so they were talking about their concierge move service. One of the examples that he gave of we try to pay attention to like the things that we're moving and the things in the house because then it helps us get a good gift for the client at the end. And
Mhm.
one example that he gave was he was doing a client sort of like I'm doing. Client went on vacation while they were doing this huge move. And he said that they ended up finding out where the client was going on vacation, called the front desk, made sure they had like a spa day, or there was something, some example he gave of like they gave them a very expensive gift, but the
Mhm.
client was blown away that they had been that thoughtful and that resourceful and that, they really thought about them while they were also doing all this work for them already. So people at the How To Summit that were in my session are probably like, you missed 12 points of the story. Undoubtedly I did, but that they really do that. Like they said, that's a part of their core principles, basically, of like, we really want to deliver an amazing customer experience to them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be like something you see in their home. It could be, maybe it's a busy mom who's exhausted and you go like, "Hey, I'm going to give you a massage," or you don't
Right.
actually give it to them.
Yeah.
That would be weird. But like give a massage gift card, whatever,
Yeah,
something that you think would be good for them.
absolutely.
Oh, one thing that I wanted to talk about is sometimes a client dissatisfaction, and this is based on some things that we see occasionally in our Inspired Organizer group, is the reason I thought about this. But sometimes a client dissatisfaction is due to miscommunication. And specifically invoicing is where I see this a lot. I have seen in the inspired organizer groups, this has not happened to me directly, but I've seen in the group where people are like, I sent the invoice and they're really mad because they didn't know that product was going to be this much money or something
Oh,
like that. And so one of the kind of caveats I was going to give you is some of these classic dissatisfactions, there are ways that you can and should head that off at the beginning. And I think that's a miscommunication piece of sometimes the client's like, yeah, I would love some bins and baskets, but they have no concept that your idea of bins and baskets might be a $2,500 line item that they are then completely unprepared for on the invoice.
for sure. Yeah. So having that conversation up front, like I have a client right now who she's on vacation and she's texting me, hey, we have these white bins. And she shows me a picture and they're from IKEA for the pantry. And she's like, but I really want them to be clear. I was like, amazing. Do you want them to be clear, opaque, like this link to the Container Store where they're like $6? Or do you want them to be clear acrylic like this link where it's, $25?
Five or whatever. Yeah.
Right. And then we're all on the same page. Everyone sees the price, and yeah, and just asking those questions on the front end. Do you have a budget per product or do you trust me? Like, I mean, that's kind of the wide chasm.
And I also think not assuming is really critical because what I will tell you is there are some people who are like, I don't care, spend $1,000 and it doesn't matter to me. And there are some people who are like, I don't want you to spend $20 on something. And sometimes those people are not who you think they would be, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
it might be the fanciest house that they're in who are like, I don't really care. Buy the $3 bin from Target. It doesn't matter to me what it looks like. When you might think, boy, this person really cares about how their organizing is going to look. And they actually might not. And the
Yeah.
person who you think might be more rolling on a budget is like, no, I want to blow out. I want everything from the Container Store. I don't want anything from Target, whatever that looks like. Don't,
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
but that's one that I definitely think if there are client dissatisfactions, that's one that I hear about a lot. And it's just based on that either miscommunication, lack of communication, or just a lack of understanding. So I think being really
Yeah.
clear with clients, especially when you're working on a very big project that might involve many zeros on their invoice.
Yeah. I mean, and just start making it a habit too to ask, if you're interested in product, what are we talking about here? And a lot of times people will say, I have no idea. How much do you think it'll cost? And so then you need to get good at estimating to be like, we could do anywhere from 500 to 1500 in this kitchen.
Right.
Where do you want me to fall and which areas are most important for bins? I'm thinking these because this is a high traffic area, but you tell me, like give them some guidance. But yeah, sometimes I think it's fun to goof around with clients too. It goes with some of the above and beyond stuff. But I had this one client whose mom was no longer living in the home and she had moved into, a different place where she could get better care. And paring knives were kind of her thing. She would just have them everywhere, like mixed in with paintbrushes next to her medicine. They were just everywhere. And so to the point that like when we found one in the garage, I'd be like, I found your mom's calling card. And it just became a
Oh,
big joke.
yeah.
And so to this day, I hope she doesn't see this podcast until she moves. But I found one more after because she would laugh and just throw them away, right? Because she was like, I don't need like 27 paring knives. But I wrapped one up like to protect the blade so that no one would get cut, right? And then taped it to the back of a piece of furniture I was confident was going to move with her whenever that day
Yeah.
comes. And I signed it, Love Mom.
Oh, that's so cute.
And stuck it behind there. So
Yeah.
someday she will see that, and I think it'll be really sweet. And this is actually partly sad too. Mom has passed away now, but like it was just such a thing that was so inherently her mom. And so I think that's the fun part of getting to know your clients, getting to know what things are important to them,
Yeah.
being able to goof around with them. And I think the clients that you and I attract are often they want someone real and relatable. And some people do want the real white glove professional who's going to come in and not really talk to them and just do their thing and change their space and make it better and easier. And I totally respect that. I am the organizer who's going to be singing Broadway musicals with you within the first 5 minutes. Like,
Yeah. It's funny you say that. So this client that I'm at now, she was showing me, we were doing like a what are we doing tour around the house. And she was showing me they have a picture of a friend on a stick. Like it was for a triathlon or a marathon or something. Cause I was like, tell me about that. And she explained what it was. And then she's like, oh, the kids like to like poke it around the corner to scare me and that type of thing. And I'm like, okay, you're my people. Like, I love that. That's totally something we would do at our house. And so the other day I had a huge pile of boxes that was up against the wall and I go, "Oh, I know what I'm going to do." And I went out and I found the stick and I put the guy coming out of the one of the boxes and I was like, it mostly just entertained me, but I also knew it would entertain them, right? Like it was just a small dumb thing, but like these are just little things that show you are paying attention and it's funny. So,
oh, absolutely. It's gonna sound so funny when I say it, so I have to describe it better. But it was like one of these tequila bottles from a vacation to Mexico that had the family's photo on it from, I'm sure, a vacation, right? And every time I would ask about it, each one would look at the other of like, I don't know, are we gonna keep this? We don't know. They don't really drink. And so, after a few days of working in their house, it ended up slipped into the bed, because I was just like, I
yes.
just picturing them taking the pillows off at night and being like, Missy.
Yes. Yeah, and those are little things. And by the way, not every client is that person, right? Like I also, as
No.
you were telling that story, I was thinking about another client. You and I are very similar. Like we want to get to know our clients and we're personable and we like that. But I have a client who, frankly, I said she has the personality of a potato. Like she doesn't want to chat, right? She doesn't want to chat. She's all business. She is not interested in being my friend, which is fine. But it
Yeah.
is like a different experience, right? Because like I'm very buttoned up. Like when I go to her door, I'm like, oh, hello, how are you? Like,
Yeah.
let's how about you show me the project? Like we do not mess around. I do not make jokes. I have tried to make jokes. She does not laugh at them. Fine.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
those are, by the way, her money spends the same as the people who let me laugh with them, but
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's right. And you're right. No, I would not do that for everybody. But once you have spent enough time with each other, like I had a client just last week be like, wow, you really get to know people. I said, oh, yeah, we're
yeah,
folding their underwear sometimes. Like, we're in it. And now we're like family, depending on how involved you are in the project and how big of a project it is. But yeah,
totally.
anyway.
Well, if nothing else, we just want to encourage people to think about just some of the above and beyond things, but also just not taking things personally, realizing you can say sorry, realizing there are going to be people that you can't make everybody happy all the time. What's that phrase? Like, I can't make everyone happy. I'm not pizza.
Or I'm not Nutella.
Yeah, whatever. Fill in the blank with whatever. I'm not
Yeah.
vodka. You can also say
Tacos.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it is just like letting a few things go, even if it's some money, even if it's something else, like you're really trying to win the long game, not the short game with your clients. Is that fair?
That's fair. I did think of one more thing. There was one time where there was a client who was moving, so there was a lot of stuff that was going to donate, and then there was a lot of stuff that was being kept, and we were keeping those two piles as far apart from each other as humanly
Yes.
possible. The donates were going straight onto a trailer because it was that level of donates,
Okay.
and the client was like, I got this, just get it on the trailer, I will haul it away. So there was a lot of double checking
Yes.
going on the trailer, and then
The
once
stressful thing.
yeah, and then once everything's on the trailer, let's look through and make sure, like, this is going. Somehow, the next day, the client woke up and was like, "Where XYZ?" And they were not by the keep pile, and so they panicked, and so we found out where they went. I went to that Goodwill. I learned a lot about the process behind
Yes.
the Goodwill, and those
They let
items
you in the back, right? Like
Yep,
they let you search.
they did. They let me search the back. I went out to the floor first, and God bless these Goodwill employees. One woman goes, "Wait, was it this color?" And I was like, and she goes, "It sold yesterday." And I was like, "Oh my gosh.
Oh no.
Like this is just not what you want to hear, right?" So
No.
so again, phone call, called the client. I was like, "I need to tell you that the items are gone. Like they're no longer here." Of course it was a sentimental item. Of course it was.
Okay.
And I said, "I'm so deeply sorry." So I returned to like, when I cannot return the item, what can I do? Like, what can I offer? And so that was when I offered, like, I would love to offer you some money so that I know that she's a person who loves thrift stores. And like, if you come across something else like this in the future or one that reminds you of it? Because truth be told, they weren't actually using this item, but they were keeping it just in case, right? But it was from someone that they cared about. And so they want to give you enough money that you could like buy it back. And she's like, "Oh, that's really not necessary." And I said, "I appreciate you saying that, but this is the only thing I can think of to make this situation right. Like my hands feel empty. Like I want to give you something." And she said, "Well, my husband would probably appreciate it." I said, "You got it." So
Right. Enough said. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, and that's, I think that in our business, the biggest potential client dissatisfaction point is something got accidentally donated. And
Yeah.
there are projects that I had one recently, and thankfully I thought of, like, I'm very proud of myself because I had this moment where I'm like, you know, and I have the luxury of, I have a very big garage. And so I can do some of this. I recognize not everybody has the ability to do this, but it was a client that I was doing a very complex project for, and they were saying goodbye to a lot of clothing, but he said, some of these are aspirational, so I want to keep them. I had this moment where it was like we were doing 200 things that day. And I'm like, I think I messed up a couple of these piles. Like, I think one of these keep piles I put, and I just had this moment where I go, I'm going to keep these things. I'm not going to take them to donation yet. And sure enough, he goes, where are my blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, I had a feeling that I messed a couple of these things up in the haze of the chaos. And so I kept all the things. I'm going to bring them to you. You can go through them again. And I didn't charge him from the time. And I didn't, I didn't do any of that because first of all, I was very grateful. I didn't have to say, sorry, they disappeared 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But that, donation versus not donation, that is a process thing that you can you just have to be really careful about. But
Mhm.
still, even if you're massively careful, mistakes can be made.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it was one of those things where, of course, the team members that were on the team were like, "I really remember her saying, yes, these could go."
Sure.
And I'm like, "She may have,
It
I
could
don't
seem
know."
remorse, like on her
Yeah.
part, where she's like, I shouldn't have done this. Okay,
Right. Yeah.
whatever.
Regardless, she now wants the thing and it's no longer here. So
Yes.
what are we gonna do now?
That is one situation if you really wanna go, if you truly wanna do above and beyond, I will tell you, eBay, a lot of times you can find weird stuff on there, so you can type in, like, green Kermit the Frog, salt and pepper shakers, whatever it is, right? That's an option too, but the other thing too is sometimes they're like, old china or something like that. Replacements.com often
Mhm.
have things like that. So there are places online that you can look for things if you want. It's not going to be the person's thing, but it may replicate it if you really want to do that above and beyond.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Missy, you have been on the podcast before, but tell everyone where, because you're such a kind and giving person and you are great at so many things. So go back and listen to some of our past podcasts with Missy, but how can people get in touch with you in the great wide interwebs?
In the great wide interwebs. So I'm most active probably on stories on Instagram or Facebook. On stories, it's Clear Spaces Organizing. Facebook, it's Clear Spaces Organizing MN. And the website is creatingclearspaces.com. I just like long and complicated websites.
Love it.
But yeah, I'm all of those places. And thanks for having me on. It's always fun to talk with you and share stories.
Well, and one of the things that I will say, I actually recorded, I don't know when these will all post. It's up to the mysteries of my mind, but I recorded a podcast earlier with another Minnesota organizer, and Missy and I are mutual friends with her. And one of the things that I said, which I stand by, is get a network in your local area, unless you live somewhere where there are no other organizers. Go get a network, because I was so happy last week. I had two clients that came into my inbox that both happened to be in Missy's backyard, and Missy's backyard and my backyard are very far from each other. And so I was like, you know what? I actually can't take these right now. I'm going to send them right over to Missy. I'm so grateful that I have referral partners in my community that, not only can I go to for just, hey, you'll never believe what happened to me today, but also like, hey, I've got this client and I think you'll serve them better than I do. And Missy also, I will shout out. I had a client, speaking to client dissatisfaction. This is a direct one that is between the two of us. I have a client who loves me and she asked me to go work with her dad. Her dad didn't love me. Her dad didn't love my speed. Her dad didn't love just maybe me in general. And my client was so nice about it. She's like, "You're my speed, but you're not Larry's speed." And I'm like, you know what? I have someone who would be perfect for Larry. And it was Missy. And so, like, just get that person and get a client that is happy with someone else. That's okay too.
Well, thank you for that endorsement. I appreciate it because it feels weird to come on here and be like, let's talk about client dissatisfaction. And it sounds like, people are dissatisfied, but they're not. Like we're
Oh,
serving so many people that are, delighted. And if it's helpful, I imagine it would be helpful to hear, like, here's some different ways you can navigate when a client gets upset. Because I hated when I became an organizer there, like people were always saying things like, it's not if a client is going to be unhappy with you, it's when. And I was like, I'm going to be the exception to the rule, like, and it's just not possible. Like it all happens at some point. And if it hasn't happened to you yet, yay. If it does, come back and listen because there's
yes.
always a way to fix it.
It absolutely will. And I think there is not a better note that we can end on. So thank you, Missy, for being here. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you too. Thanks so much.